right, and welcome to City Business. This is James Moore. You're listening to KRUU-FM 100.1 on the FM dial, the vaunted FM dial, KRUU-FM.com on the World Wide Web machine. We welcome FMC into the house as well. Fairfield Media Center with Jason Strong, looking strong, and I won't say contemplative, but he's looking like he's in one piece. Michael Halley joining us to talk about the latest haps at City Hall. We do appreciate you dropping by, Michael. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Glad to be here.
Good to see you. What do you got on the docket?
All right. Here's another informal review of a regular council meeting, this one from February 12th, 2018.
Excellent.
What do we have? We had several appearances. People appeared. That's what we call people come and want to talk to the council. They do have to appear in order to talk. But first we heard from Matthew Welsher from Vintage Power Wagons. They are organizing their 31st Power Wagon Rally coming up on Saturday, June 9th. And they requested some downtown street closure to allow them to have their annual parade.
The usual?
Mm-hmm. As per usual, they said that the 30th event was so big that about 80% of the people who came signed up to come back.
Wow.
While they were still here.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's turned into this huge event that lasts for about a week. And I guess if you like power wagons, this is the place to be. So we approved that. And then we heard from Collector Cars Unlimited. They have their event coming on Sunday, September 6th. So they block off a portion of the downtown so that people can put these collectible automobiles for everyone to come and see. It's a Sunday, so it's a little easier, not going to conflict with business.
Interesting. They plan ahead.
Yep. So that's September, and that's their 36th annual event. So these are long-running events. We heard from... I'll jump ahead. I'm going to not jump ahead. First, there was a request, Russ and Lippincott, coming from the convention center, the Arts and Convention Center, requesting closing one block of Main Street in front of the center here in March for the Southeast Iowa Farm Show. Third annual, I think, that it's been at that event.
And they usually don't block that, or do they?
They do.
Oh, okay.
Just that one
right in front
block of Main.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So from Friday through, I think, Saturday, I believe it's blocked. So I can check that. I don't want to say the wrong dates. Yeah, so the Thursday night, and then it opens 6 p.m. Saturday. So we approved that as well because...
Do you mean 6 p.m. Friday?
Nope, Saturday. So it's all day Friday.
Oh, gotcha.
And then up until 6 on Saturday.
Roger.
Yep, so a couple of days. And then Mr. Lippincott, now wearing a different hat, this time the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Some of us feel that they should take the convention out of the Visitors Bureau so it stops getting confused with the Convention and Arts and Convention Center. But I think half the people in town think they're the same thing. Just for the sake of clarity, they're not. The Convention and Visitors Bureau is a city. It's under the city's umbrella. It's a nonprofit organization that uses hotel motel tax to market Fairfield to visitors. They also give out a number of grants for events, anything that can draw people to town. The Arts Convention Center is a nonprofit that organizes the events inside that building, which is owned by the city or the community. So, two different things. A lot of times they're confused because
it's owned by the city, though.
The building is owned by the city.
But it's a little closer than not connected, but it's different.
Different in that the Visitors Bureau markets more than just what's happening at the convention center.
Right.
Convention center would be part of, obviously that's a big draw, but there are more things in the community that the Visitors Bureau promotes than the events at the center.
Right.
And the confusion is partly that Russ and Lippincott works for both. So he's director of the Arts Convention Center and then also director of the Convention Visitors Bureau. So,
is he paid separately for that?
I don't know what this current arrangement. When I was the CVB board president, we had a 75-25 split. So
I see.
75% was the center and 25 the Visitors Bureau, which left the one full-time employee of the Visitors Bureau was Terry Baker, assistant director. So that's her full-time gig. So she works in conjunction with Rustin on
And does a
a
great
number of
job.
projects, which is what we heard all about. So I'm going to show
Excellent.
this to the people who are watching.
Thanks for explaining that.
Yep. The people who are listening will have to imagine, but very beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Annual report from the Visitors Bureau. I'm just going to abbreviate. We'll just call it the Visitors Bureau, and then there won't be any confusion. So they said that they show a really nice graph. I'll try to describe it, of our hotel motel tax increasing annually, and they've got it since 2013. It was a little under 100,000 that year, and then in 2018 it was 188,
Beautiful.
almost 189. So to rewind a bit on that one, that's the hotel motel tax that the voters passed to put in place. That it's an extra tax on any overnight stay in a hotel within city limits. And so what that shows is there are more people staying. Having a new hotel on the south side of town definitely is part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So more rooms. And then
When did that come in? Do you remember?
When was that new one?
It seems like it was 2013.
It was a while ago. Maybe even.
I think they were there the first year of Fairfest. I think.
Yeah.
So it might have been 2012.
Maybe 2012. I'm thinking 11 or 12. But so that's helped. And then just all I think Airbnbs are now asked to collect this,
I see.
as much as possible to contribute as well. And then those funds are spent, they said majority spent on marketing, various types of marketing. That's just not just advertising, but flyers and such. And then 15,000 in grants and 42,000 in special projects, including the branding, hospitality training, wayfinding design, Mazdan Bar and technical assistance, branding design, and collateral. So it's just really cool to see what they're up to. And then the proof's in the pudding that the efforts that they're doing seem to be working in terms of bringing more people to our community.
Absolutely.
And that stimulates our economy. And then they also showed us, and this is even fancier, their 2017-2021 strategic plan. And I have not had a chance to look through this, full of beautiful images of the vibrant scene here in Fairfield. And so we just want to give a little shout out. Good job, Visitors Bureau. So thumbs up to Rustin, thumbs up to Terry.
Great job.
Yeah, really proud of the work.
And also
they're doing.
all the great places like the Cider House, the Cider Works, I suppose the Depot, Cafe Paradiso, so many places on the square that have really upgraded their look and their sense of feel. I mean, all that together creates sort of a welcoming sheen, and I think Fairfield has that, if not in spades, certainly to a large and welcoming degree, certainly culturally as well. So great job. I've known those guys a long, long time, and they've done great work for many, many years.
Yeah, and they're still just continuing to develop new and interesting projects. So I'm sure we'll be talking about them again, but that's their annual review, which is always fun to hear. All right, jumping into our resolutions, action items, and ordinances. So these are items that need council vote. An action item is simple, less binding than, say, a resolution, which would be more binding, and obviously an ordinance is law. So there are different levels. An action item just takes one vote. Same with a resolution, but an ordinance requires 3 and requires a public hearing before each vote to hear from anybody who has something to say, which I'll get to because we did have someone who had something to say.
Okay.
And
that's democracy.
That's democracy. So the first were several things about the extension at Tyler Avenue. So the city is using the new property tax that's been created by Traffic's device expansion, capturing a portion of that to pay for an extension of Tyler Avenue that will allow that business specifically to have the ability to come in one road and out another. Right now they don't. So again, using the valuation that they've added through their private investment to pay for this infrastructure that will be public infrastructure and will actually also grant access to some property that FEDA, Fairfield Economic Development Association, owns. That once there's a road there, there's more likelihood that someone may eventually develop it. So we're moving forward on that. One of the things that's required is to get a right-of-way. So right now it's private property, but the owner of that property has to give the space where the road and the buried utilities and potentially sidewalks will go. And that space is called the public right-of-way. And it's owned by the city and usually maintained. The streets and the sidewalk, or the streets are maintained by the city. The sidewalks, sometimes we can get into that, what happened in the past where the homeowners or property owners are asked to maintain. And then the grassy area between the street and the sidewalk, though owned by the city, is maintained by the property owner. So it's a funny little relationship, but it is what it is. It's called the right-of-way, and that's what it's for. All right.
Just a quick insert here. That's Michael Halley, 4th Ward City Council person, who's giving us the latest from last night's City Hall. If you're listening, City Hall meeting, if you're listening on Tuesday at lunchtime, 12:30, we also rebroadcast this information at dinner time Thursday, 6:30 p.m., and the following Monday morning, breakfast time, 6:30 a.m., to keep you up to snuff. And this is James Moore at KRUU-FM, solar-powered, people-powered radio in Fairfield's second decade of broadcasting. And back to you, Michael.
All right. So we're also moving forward on plans to reconstruct more blocks or more road on Adams. So from Adams Avenue, from D Street eastward to the point where the road has already been torn up but not reconstructed yet. That whole strip will be reconstructed. We're trying to line it up so that it can move a little bit more smoothly this time. The utility company, Alliant Energy, has to lower their gas lines. They're a little too high for the road to be reconstructed, and they have to move their power lines a bit because they're too close to the road. So we want to make sure that work gets done so we can get this all done in the construction season so that the road is repaved as soon as possible. Set a public hearing for the fiscal year 18-19 budget. So that'll be at our next council meeting on the 26th. Yes. Monday, February 26th. And anybody interested in how it all gets, all the money that's collected gets spent, can come and see it in action. I do know that the levy rate for the city, so the city's one taxing body, the county, hospital, and the schools are the other three. The city's portion will go down slightly. So our levy rate, the amount per $1,000 evaluation that we use for city funding, will go down slightly for the next fiscal year, which is definitely the direction we want to move in. Not a lot, but a little. All right, we did first reading. It's kind of boring stuff, but if you're a contractor in town and you want to use the city's barricades when you're doing work to block off a street or sidewalk, we're going to charge you for it because it's public, it's city equipment, and if you're a private contractor, we feel that you should either pay for it or use your own. And so we're moving forward on it's nominal, but it's a little bit of a fee. Along with that, we've included in this ordinance not just street closures, but sidewalk closures. So it should be coordinated with the city before work is done, because both the sidewalk and the street are public spaces. And if you're going to close them, it's a free, the permit itself is no charge. So if you're using your own barricades, just fill it out. It lets our street department know, lets our police department know. And so everyone's aware that, okay, this portion of sidewalk is going to be closed for this amount of time while some work is being done. This is basically for people who need to dig or excavate.
I can dig it.
You can dig it. All right.
I can't, but.
We're rezoning 800 North 12th. If you know that area, there was a house that burned down and was torn down, and now there's a new house on the old foundation. Well, they want to rezone it. It was A1 agriculture to R2 residence, which makes a lot of sense. We passed the Park and Rec Advisory Board, changing it from 7 to 5 members. We had changed it from 5 to 7, and they had trouble finding 7, so they said, well, we're 5. Let's just make the ordinance 5. All right, this is the one we had someone finally come and talk about, because this was our third and would have been our final reading, to amend the fireworks, the days that are allowed to be discharged. So last year we allowed, I think it was basically a week or 8 days in July, and a couple of days around the New Year's. And the vast majority of the feedback was, good God, make it stop. My kids can't sleep. My dogs run away. I have PTSD, and just a lot of people didn't like it. Obviously, a lot of people liked it, because the people who didn't like it didn't like what the people who liked it were doing, if that makes any sense. So there were a lot of people taking advantage of the fact they can launch fireworks, and maybe because for the first time there was more than usual. We don't know, but all we know is the request was, please limit the days, shrink the number of days. So the City Council Public Safety Committee looked at it, came back with an amendment that shrunk it all the way down to 1 day, 4th of July, and New Year's Eve. That's it. So this was put out in the local paper. I talked about it here and soliciting feedback, and no one spoke up to say, well, that's too short, until right before the third and final reading, which is, it's never too late. We heard from a gentleman, Brian Hawthorne, who's not actually a citizen of Fairfield, but he does have experience. He actually did professional pyrotechnics. He actually worked for a company in California, and he actually did some of the launching for the JCs years back. So he knows his fireworks. And his concern was, if you condense it too much into just 1 day, you may be getting people launching bundles or trying to launch everything at once, which is dangerous. And so there were people on the council who felt that we should slow it down, just take a moment. July 4th is a while away. We still have time.
That's an interesting perspective. Send
it back to the committee. Yeah, it never dawned on most of us that would be a safety issue. So we'll look at it again on the committee level. And one idea that's been floated is, what if it was similar to the trick or treat, where it's set at a different time every year? Not that we would set it at a different time every year, but depending on where the 4th fell in the week, that there may be 2 days that it's allowed, or maybe the ordinance says no more than 2 days. Or that's true. If it's the 4th and it's a Tuesday, sometimes you do the fireworks on the weekend, or exactly, some sort of way to try to take into account that there may be times other than the 4th where it would make sense that they would want to discharge. You can argue the other side. It's called a holiday, not a holiday 2 day or a holiday 3 day. And, we celebrate a lot of different holidays on a specific day.
Well, I mean, obviously you do if it falls on a weekend, but if it doesn't, then it's...
Sometimes some are a day of the week and some are day of the month. Mm-hmm. But, you don't put the flags out the day before or after Memorial Day. Memorial Day is Memorial Day, but that's always on a certain day of the week. So You got to kind of try to balance that. And it's fair to look at it because, again, we have a lot of time.
And no I guess there aren't local fireworks sellers, because I would think they would be concerned. But
that was the other thing, that there are people who have gotten licenses and sell. And Mr. Hawthorne was saying, well, they're going to sell less. People have so much less time to fire, they're going to buy less. And that's true as well. I mean, that just goes with anything that you have to have. There's a pro and con and a repercussion to everything. I can't say what's going to happen, but maybe it'll be expanded slightly beyond a day. So we'll see. We'll see what committee has to say about it. We're meeting next week, by the way, and we have 9 items on our agenda. So
it'll be a busy committee meeting, but how interesting. I mean, that, by the way, is how government works, local government. I mean, if this individual had shown up earlier, it doesn't matter. It's a three-time option,
yeah.
But it would have all. I mean, it's kind of nice that it came up, and that the powers that be thought to at least think through some different aspects, because it's going from a wide open aperture to a tiny one, and that is a particular interesting point to me because 4th of July, it's not like Memorial Day where it's always a Monday after a weekend or et cetera, where it's a weekend. Of course, Thanksgiving falls on a Thursday, but it's always a closed down, a different scope. This is it would be a little bit odd if you have a 4th falling here and you're doing fireworks there, I think. Yeah. If you can't do it on the day that the fireworks are, but you can do it but you know what? That's what makes America great.
Well, I think that whatever was decided would be 4th and possibly another day. So,
okay.
But, if you get too complicated, say the 4th is a Wednesday and you say we can do it the Sunday prior to the 4th, you know what I mean? It just gets kind of kooky. And when you start going past the 4th, you also get people pretty upset because they think, okay, if I just survive through the 4th, I'm done. And then the 5th comes and there's still fireworks going off, which there always are because people still have some. So they'll launch them either way. But if it's legal, they're going to launch a lot more. So we'll find out how that comes around.
Well, interesting. I'm just enjoying the process more than...
Same thing happened. I think it was with the outdoor dining. There's something where we were moving forward, and in the 3rd reading, someone asked,
What about
this? And it was a local I think it was Betsy Howland.
Mm-hmm.
She said, hey, what about this? And it was a good point. And so we said, you know what? Let's look at that. And we amended 2 or 3 things and then came back and went through the readings again.
We call those the Betsy Howland amendments. Just like this, is it a Norwegian skier who is named, he's doing a different style of sprint across country, but sort of a sprint. And usually you do these glides, and he's doing this 21-year-old doing this running thing, and he just killed everybody.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, the Olympics are going on. That's reality TV, folks. But anyway.
Do your own way. Go for it. All right, couple committee reports were economic development talked about. We were talking with neighborhood builders. So they're the developers on Lincoln Avenue by Pilot Grove Bank. They've done a 4-plex, and now I think they're doing a triplex. And it's just that, we talked about this before, a development agreement has to be in place that says the city will build out X infrastructure if the developers create Y new property tax evaluation. And the relationship between those two isn't really subjective. It's just it's a formula, because whatever the cost of the infrastructure within this development agreement to make the TIF district function have to be covered by the new valuation. So that's what the agreement is. So if the developer says, you know what, we don't want to have to build as much, we don't want to do $3.5 million, $2.5 million. Well, then the city can only do a smaller amount of infrastructure because we'd have less money to work with. So it's that kind of, what are you going to do? Well, what are you going to do? And let's agree on that. And we're trying to hash it out so that they can break ground, that the city can put in an extension of what would be Court Street out there, would run north-south.
Does a thing like that count cost overruns and all that?
Yes, it has to be self-contained. That's how TIF works. And and we're, the city obviously needs to make sure we're telling the property tax owners everywhere else, you're not paying for this, they're paying for this. Well, that's what the development agreement says.
Gotcha.
And so hopefully we'll get that all worked out. Ways and Means met, and they're going to show the budget that they came up with at the next meeting. And then Waste Management is offering these large 96-gallon, the same size as the recycling bins, trash bins, 10 per ward or 10 per council member, to find people who want to try them. It's a test. Now, what happened was they came to the council and said, we propose to charge more and everyone gets these. And the council said, we've talked to the citizens and they say, no, thank you. And Waste Management came back and said, how about we do a test so you can try them, see how great they are. So obviously they want to keep the conversation open and keep things possible, get us hooked on them, right? And then we'll say, oh, we'll pay whatever. These are the best. But I don't know what happens when the test is done if they take them back. So anyone who's participating, don't get rid of your existing trash can. You might need it when the test is over. And the final thing is, and this is a huge thing to talk about, we'll talk about it next time, franchise fee. There's just no time to talk about it. call me or email me if you want more information on it.
But the basic gist?
The basic gist is that a lot of cities include a franchise fee that's a percentage of the bill for your electric and gas. So any utility you pay that doesn't go through the city, so water and wastewater go through the city, natural gas and electricity go through Alliant. So that goes on Alliant's bill, but it comes back to the city, and it's a non-property tax-based revenue stream, which is, there's an equity about it because there are a number of organizations like nonprofits, churches, et cetera, that don't pay property tax that would pay this. So as long as it's used as kind of in place of property tax and instead of another fee, like another way to charge people, if you use it as another revenue stream that you can then lower property tax, it can be very valuable because it's user-based instead of just whoever owns the property pays.
Well, you know what? That was a very succinct lightning round. We're out of time, but at least I got a taste. If you have questions about that, you can contact your city council person, Michael, or others.
And at this point, all the council did was say, Aaron Koiker, administrator, investigate this further. That's all we did.
Gotcha. That'll do it for City Business. City Haps, James Moore, Michael Halley, Jason Strong in the house. We'll see you in 2 weeks.